So if Kamala was expecting a Christmas card from the Bidens, she can pretty much throw that thought away. As they enter in, they completely ignore her. Look away, look towards anything they can, but the lady standing next to him. But that just goes to frame in the state of our government, doesn't it? It's all been smoke and mirrors, deception, misdirection, anything they could but focus on their own failures. So the ghost of Christmas past may haunt us for longer than most want to realize, and it all leads to something that was just published. But there's many players in this charade, those who we've talked about for so many years, those who represent themselves better than they'll ever represent we the people. It will lead to a final question, a little fun one coming into Christmas. Who was your favorite ghost of things to come? So many options, so many choices. We'll have a little survey later, after we get through the primary point of this story. But we've come to find out so much now, haven't we? Things we knew were happening, but of course now it suddenly comes out when the mainstream media publishes it. The unelected Democrat puppet masters who are really running America for senile Joe Biden. How ailing Joe relied on circus of close circle. See, I said circus? Not that far off, is it? Advisors, while his mental decline was covered up from day one of his presidency. If they can pull that off, what else can they pull off? You don't think they're done fighting yet. I know you don't. You're way smarter than that. But because the Wall Street Journal suddenly publishes an article, how the White House functioned with a diminished Biden in charge. We'll go full screen. They pressed LaRosa to contact a reporter again and played down any comparison in campaign appearances between Joe Biden, then 77, and his wife, who is 8 years his junior. Now, why is that critical to the story? Because it appears somebody's pissed off. It's Joe Biden, to be specific, and she wants Biden to burn the system down. But why would they say that she wants Biden to burn the system down? Wouldn't she go to the same people that have been handling the U.S. government? By the estimations provided by those of Daily Mail and Wall Street Journal. The message from Biden's team was clear. The more you talk to her, the more you make him look bad. To adapt the White House around the needs of a diminished leader, they told visitors to keep meetings focused, interactions with senior Democratic lawmakers and some cabinet members, including powerful secretaries such as Lloyd Austin, Janet Yellen, whose meetings grew infrequent. Some legislative leaders had a hard time getting the president's ear at key moments, including ahead of the U.S. disastrous pullout from Afghanistan. You see how they're trying to distance him from that entire disaster. So then who was leading in their estimation? Advisors were put into roles that some administration officials and lawmakers thought Biden should occupy, with people such as National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan, Steve Ricchetti, Lael Bernard, and her predecessor frequently in position of being go-betweens for the president. But again, I ask you a simple question. If they're able to pull this off, what else can they? What else did they? If you saw my broadcast on the recent J6 report, you'll start to paint a much larger picture. But now Jill's upset because she's going to go to Joe now to decimate everything. Not the people seen on your screen who have allegedly been running everything, but revenge is a dish best served cold, isn't it? Nothing more scary than a woman scorned. And Joe Biden is that woman scorned, but you see, she's got a lot of support. Not those who actually care about Joe Biden. No, those who care about keeping democracy the way it has been, the word I despise, the word that represents everything contrary to what this great republic of the United States was meant to be in some way, shape, or form. We don't need to get into the details of it because the letter that was published, the call that was published, the report that was published tells you everything you need to know. Because what is Christmas next going to look like? Oh, it's going to be a long year. And they gave us great insight as to exactly what to expect. I'm going to cover that here in just 1 minute. Huge favor before we get started and you get into your holidays. I need you to subscribe to the channel. For all of those of you who supported me throughout this year, either on this membership platform here, thank you. Let me start there. Thank you. You see no advertisers or sponsors. I don't want to be beholden to no one. And so your support is truly the only way this broadcast continues. This, I wish, was free, but the time, the energy, the equipment, the microphones, everything else necessary, well, unfortunately, that is not free. But freedom's not free, and we have those who are fighting for it on a day-to-day basis and those who support us fighting for it, and thank you again. You have another means of supporting me, and I'll give you even more news, and Lisa Haven will give you more news. No commercials, no interruptions. That's restrictedrepublic.com. Our gift to you is Christmas 24. You can go ahead and get 12 months for $3.99 a month, plus 14 days for free. Cancel anytime. It is truly the gift that keeps on giving, and it is a gift to us if you'll go there today and join. And another hint, don't forget to tune in to the end of the video where you have a chance to win a free membership at Restricted Republic. I'm going to give it to you with one simple question and the perfect answer that I hope to see in the comments. So tune in to the end of the video. Get your shot. But now, let's get back to this video. So back to this vengeful Jill Biden and what she intends on doing before we get to that much larger report that just came out. News sources say the First Lady has been egging her husband on to further inflame fury among his colleagues. Jill views Democrats on Capitol Hill, the wider party, the Obamas, staff inside and outside the White House, the media, and all of Washington, D.C. with such misguided resentment that I can't imagine she isn't encouraging Joe to burn the whole thing down despite his better judgment, but he does have the capacity to do so. That would be contrary to many reports, so it must play into a larger narrative. There must be those loyal to maybe the Bidens that could cause a much bigger disruption, a slowdown of Donald J. Trump per se. A well-connected Democratic strategist confirmed the Daily Mail that influence over Biden has been concentrated by people who are not external facing, those who weren't elected. Bruce Rees, Steve Ricchetti, Mike Donnellan again. He was shielded by these people. And the mainstream media, in our opinion, was complicit. Biden's lower-level staff have often griped that his secretive, as they call them, Biden whisperers, developed an outsized influence, an oversized influence over America's oldest ever president. Now, in normal days, it would be devastating. It would be the number one headline if the U.S. government was taken over by officials that weren't elected. But it's exactly what the Daily Mail and Wall Street Journal are now publishing on. How deep do those claws go? How concentrated is it? How many people are all in the midst of this? Mainstream media after mainstream media report.
Our country were overthrown by two billionaires throwing a fit, and it's not even January.
Scott, what's your take on that?
Well, if Van is concerned about unelected officials running the government, I would invite him to review the last 4 years of the Biden administration and maybe pick up the Wall Street Journal this week. We've apparently had a president that's so diminished that his staff has been hiding it from the American people and making key decisions on behalf of our government, despite never having been elected to anything at all. So,
oh, isn't that the truth, huh? Never being elected. They want to call Trump a fascist. They want to poke fun at Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy. But yet, who's been running the country? How is it any different? Is any of it right? Is any of it wrong? You can always take advice from your advisors, but to have them run the country, well, that's something entirely different. But Scott Jennings has been on a roll lately, and I don't want anyone to miss this clip either.
For that reason, Elon Musk is puppeteering Donald Trump and every other member of Congress that he wants to, and every other member of Congress that he wants to benefit Elon Musk.
I'm not sure Trump is doing anything to dissuade people
in October.
Position.
In October, the principal Democratic argument was Donald Trump is going to be a dictator, and today it's Donald Trump is just being puppeteered by other people.
Well,
you could be both.
You could be both. Well, you could be both.
Which is it? Is he a dictator, or is he being puppeted? You see the big delineation there, and this is the transition the Democrats are now struggling with. They have no idea how to contend with that simple question. Is he a dictator, Or is he being driven by Musk and Ramaswamy? You see, they're a disaster. And so they're making desperate maneuvers. They're driving the border wall away. Of course, it's so bad, is it, that Trump had to file a lawsuit to get them to stop. Accordingly, President Trump is deeply troubled by recent reports that officials in the Biden administration have been selling off the border wall. But this is the mess and the disaster they are taking desperate moves. And if Alejandro Mayorkas, for example, did not have the authority of Joe Biden guiding him in his decisions, then Alejandro will do whatever the heck he wants to do. And those advisors could be the ones advising him to do so. But yet Trump is the problem. So how can they distract from this? How can they stop this? How can they prevent this from coming out even worse? Because we're not down to the execution level yet. We're just down to the hypotheses right now. What happens when they find the receipts when Trump comes in? We now rely on John Fetterman for better analysis. Never thought I would say that. And by the way, on that whole Johnson deal I covered over the weekend and all into last week, it was nice to hear Tucker Carlson come out and agree with me. There's something profoundly wrong after that budget was passed. If you didn't get to see the video yesterday, please come back and watch it. I'll leave a link. If you're on the public platforms, if you're restricted, just go back to the prior video. You need to watch it. You need to understand this. What did Tucker Carlson have to say about all this?
There was a lot more than that in the bill, but I mean, I guess the point is, like, what's up with that? What's wrong
it's
with
an
Mike
interesting.
Johnson?
There's something profoundly wrong. The number one priority of his speakership, funding Ukraine, without any audit at all, at a time when the U.S. border was open, the United States itself was being invaded, and his priority was protecting the borders of a country whose language he doesn't speak, knows nothing about, and it's not America. And it's not the only country that whose interests he's put above ours. And so, I don't want to overstate it. I think it's a kind of treason.
So he went a little further than I did. I don't disagree with his sentiment, however. But what are they going to do about it? They're not going to stop fighting. They're going to continue to dig. They're going to continue to claw. They're going to try to block everything Trump does. Biden administration ways putting up roadblocks to Trump's deportation campaign. They're considering extending protections, this on the New York Times, for hundreds of thousands of immigrants whose status in the United States is set to expire in the first months of Trump's administration. But it is a sign that Biden administration would try in its final weeks to build some obstacles to what Mr. Trump had promised will be the biggest deportation in U.S. history. As of this year, there are 1 million immigrants, many estimating that number much higher, that he could attempt to insulate. But you see, it's in the contradiction itself that the story lies. The contradiction of what America voted for versus what the elite in Washington are proposing to do. And so confusing is it. So I don't want you to feel like you're off base or you're missing something, because they're confused. Politico. Just a few days ago, new research shows the massive hole Democrats are in. The feedback from the focus group found Democrats' problems are even more widespread and potentially long-lasting than a single election cycle. The focus groups offered a pretty scathing rebuke of the Democratic Party brand. This weakness they see, Democrats, not getting things done, not being able to actually fight for people, is something that needs to be figured out. It might not be the message, it might be the policy, it might be something a little deeper that has to be addressed by the party. So you, the people in power, all these people working in Washington, D.C., all these appointments by the Biden administration, and yet your party feels that you don't represent them. But then Politico, not more than a day or so later, let's check the dates here. This was on 12/22. This article, it was the same day. An opinion piece, a call to action. Bring in the troops. Except it's a different army. It's one that is being, well, I'll read what the author states. Dear federal workers, don't quit. Stay in your jobs and work for a president. You have a choice over the holidays. Stay in your jobs and work for a president who openly disdains you and might try to fire you, or quit. because you're scared of the Donald Trump purge that he's promised. But I'm asking you, I'm pleading with you, stay. Your decision isn't just about your career. No, it's about us keeping power. It's part of a larger war, one waged throughout America's history over what the federal government can and should be. Is it an apolitical source of expertise? Apolitical. Speaking of the Biden administration, you're going to use the term apolitical. Or is it a partisan weapon for presidents to use for their own political or economic ends, which we saw over the last administration? You could defend the work of our democracy, and there it is, that word, and why I despise it so much. Because we don't want cronyism taking place. We don't want just Trump's friends getting power, referring directly to Musk and Ramaswamy, saying they're ultra billionaires, at least one of them. And all they're doing is to protect their own interests. Yeah, that's why they chose to waste their time. When they became those ultra billionaires under a different administration, so that doesn't necessarily make sense now, does it? Elon Musk became, sorry. Vivek Ramaswamy and Elon Musk practically salivate over the prospect of firing you en masse. Well, it's what we, the people, voted for. You remember us over here, right? You remember us who just voted for a mandate for change, a mandate to shrink down an overblown and overpowered government, one that wasting our tax dollars at a breakneck pace, one that has taken money out of our pockets, many of us, most of us, not being richer than when the administration started. But you're concerned about protecting those same individuals who oversaw that change so that they could stop another changes. Anything within your argument makes sense. But this is truly how they think. They're protecting a machine. They're protecting the corporation of the United States of America. Since then, the modern norms of government have been firmly grounded in the idea that merit, rather than politics, should be the guide star for civil service. Merit. Did they forget about their own initiatives? Diversity, equity, and inclusion. Is that a merit-based system? I don't believe it is. So your article quickly falls apart in your own opinion, but this is the opinion of so many on the far left that you have to understand it to be able to fight it. There's true delusion within the thought process. If you head for the exits now, every American will suffer. Well, every American has suffered for the last 4 years. Hence the mandate for change. But they need this. They need to avoid the purge. They need to call for action. Everybody stay in your seats. Because a larger war is coming. An internal war, a domestic war, and you must be there to help us stop Trump. But the apolitical cadre of around 2 million federal civil servants is the backbone of our democracy. Is every one of them bad? Absolutely not. But there's safety and there's power in numbers, and we've seen what those numbers have done, and we see that the mainstream media won't tell you. They wouldn't even tell you about Biden not even running the White House until the very end. After they realized all is lost and they have egg on their face and suddenly they got to duck and cover. Replacing expert professionals who are motivated by their desire to serve the public with partisans whose primary qualification is their loyalty to the president would cripple the government's ability to address threats around the world. How's Ukraine doing? Not really well. How did Afghanistan go? That's not really well. How's our battle with China going? Are we in a better footing or a worse? Or against Russia, better footing or worse? Well, I guess that flies in the face of your opinion also, doesn't it? So nobody in the new administration, even if they fail, could do any worse than the old administration who truly did cripple the government's ability to address threats around the world. We need a nonpartisan civil service focused on serving the American people. What a novel thought. You mean those in government are there to represent we the people? You had to state that? That's how dumb they think everyone is. But if you abandon your post before they make you, our public institutions won't stand a chance, and many shouldn't stand a chance. Many should fall, should topple, should be bankrupt, should be gone. Example after example is leaked out. How's that U.S. Postal Service doing with yours and mine dollars, and the FBI and the IRS, and let's name the DHS? Has any of them made your life better? Given you more freedom? Giving you more rights and more privileges? Remember that spending bill where they wanted to put in the Global Engagement Center extended for another year because that was also there looking out for your interests. This movement is no present to anyone. To call to arms in some weird and sick, twisted way a government workforce to simply stop the policies that are so necessary to take this great Republic of the United States forward, that their own delusion makes them believe that their last 4 years was something of grandeur. It was not. Now, the future will be fraught with many challenges. You see by these very publications the amount of challenges that will come out of them. You still have an element in Washington that will exist the day Trump walks in that will do everything in their power to stop him. So what does this future look like? What does Christmas future look like if things don't change? We saw many grim images and, well, one of my favorite set of movies and anything around the holidays has always been A Christmas Carol. So we're going to end with a little fun and get out of the grim scenario that we now have to face, a federal workforce bound and determined to destroy the Trump agenda. And a call to action by a publication that on one token says we're an absolute mess. We could do nothing right, and we did nothing right. And then on the other side of their mouth, state that we did everything perfect, and without us, the democracy will fall. Well, my friends, it needs to. So I ask you this. As a little game, A Christmas Carol or Scrooge, who was your favorite ghost of Christmas future? Was it the 1984 version? I'm not going to tell you. But one of you who puts in the comments below will, well, I'm going to give you a free subscription to Restricted Republic. And we'll see who gives the best answer that most aligns with mine. Was it the Muppets Christmas Carol or Scrooged of 1988? You could play this back because these are all you could pick from. Was it the 1999 version of A Christmas Carol? Scrooge of 1970? Scrooge of 1951? A Christmas Carol of 1910? I hope some of you seen that. A Christmas Carol of 1938. We can continue to move forward. Or Scrooge of 1935. I look forward to your comments below. I want to give you a gift for Christmas. Give me a few days. Watch your comments because you'll see me respond. And if you don't respond back, there's no way I have to get a hold of you. But my friends, if we don't talk again before Christmas, Merry Christmas to each and every one of you. I love you. I love all the support you've provided. Thank you for the multiple ways that you bring light to our lives to continue to want to fight this battle. And it is an exhausting battle at times. Never seems to end, and it changes every day. But the pride and pleasure I get from being able to present it to you, man, I can't tell you how much I enjoy it. I love each and every one of you. Until next time, Godspeed and God bless. Justus Knight, signing out.